Good morning. My name is Gene Chan, Hearing Officer for San Francisco Public Works. Mary Bell Hansen is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterward through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet. So if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. This public hearing is being held to consider two items. Hearing Order 211763 to consider the revocation of street vending permit 25 VDR 00018 issued to Charles Grace, pursuant to multiple correction notices by Public Works and a request from the port to revoke this permit. Hearing Order 211767 to consider a request to operate a mobile food facility 24 MFF 00018 Ecstasy LLC, approximately 20 feet north of the intersection of Chestnut Street and Pierce Street. The affronting building is 2200 Chestnut, with the MFF located perpendicular to Chestnut, frontage on Pierce Street. This request is to operate a mobile food facility Friday through Sunday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. within the public right-of-way. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determination. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determination. When the Director's determination is made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows. First, I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. There is no time limit for this presentation. Then I will allow the applicant to speak, and finally, any member of the public or witness who wants to speak. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you're a member of the public or witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments. Then use Zoom's raise your hand feature if you're on a computer to put yourself in the queue. If you're dialing in on your phone, dial *9 to indicate you're raising your hand. When it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. If on your phone and you're muted, press *6 to unmute yourself. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You'll then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. You may send it via email on the hearing notice to gregory.slocum@sfdpw.org. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. At this time, we will open the hearing to public comments. Members of the public may make comments on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Are there any public comments at this time?
Officer Chan, there's a hand raised. Mr. Christopher Altman, and as
Sure.
long as it's not I believe it's not on today's agenda. He would just like to make a public comment. Mr. Altman, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, hi. I'm calling about 2130 Harrison Street. there was a fine levied for pruning without a permit under um a billboard. The owners of the or the I don't know the representatives of the property filled out a permit and have paid the fee. Um, and I also wanted to give you a picture of what the tree. There was also a over pruning or excessive pruning. I did the pruning myself, and I'm a certified arborist who works for the city, and I think that the excessive pruning part is a little excessive. And I'd like to show you a picture of the tree today. It looks fine. I'm not really sure why the excessive pruning was included in this. I do understand why the not the part about not having a permit to prune under a billboard is part of it. So is there a way that I can show you what the tree looks like or give you a picture or something?
Yeah, can you email it
Yeah.
through gregory.slocum at
Uh-huh.
sfdpw.org?
Let's see here. SLOCOMB.
SLOCUM.
Oh, CUM. Here you are.
I've put the email in the chat.
Okay, cool. I have just sent it to you. And then I'm also actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I should probably send you the application that they filled out.
Apologize, but I haven't received anything.
Sure.
Sir, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, I'm just gonna put on this just email you the application that the company sent, and there you go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I believe
next speaker.
there's one other. Okay, thank you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Harriet Larkin, and I'm with a nonprofit organization called Renaissance Parents of Success. Our executive director, Tempe Priestley, submitted a letter to Mr. Gregory Slocum on
Ma'am,
behalf.
Excuse
Ma'am?
me, sorry. This is for general public comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That is not on today's agenda. So that agenda is coming up right after this.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no other hands raised for public comments, I will close the public comment item, and we will move on to our first agenda item. Hearing order 211763, street vending permit 25 VDR 00018. May I have the department make its presentation?
Yes. Hey, good morning. Can you hear me loud and clear still?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. My name's Gregory Slocum. I am the commercial permit manager with Public Works. If you could just give me but one moment here, I will be pulling up some slides. Give me one moment. It's telling me I have to log back in order to share with you. Give me 1 second here.
Gregory, did we lose you? Oh. Sorry.
You did not lose me. Here I am.
Yep, sorry. Apologies.
Thank
No
you for your
worry.
patience. All right, and I've got what I need here. So how about that? Give me 1 second. All right. Good morning. Thank you for your patience. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm here today to present, this is ecstasy. One moment. There we go. I am presenting an appeal of a permit revocation first for 24 VDR 00018. Thanks for bearing with me there. This hearing today is a result of the permittee's objection to our revocation of their permit. This permit is unique in that it's located on port property and it's not a part of public right-of-way. Legislation assigns the management of permits for street vending at the port to Public Works. And enforcement is a joint effort between the Public Works team as well as Port Security. This permittee has been issued notices of violation by the Public Works inspection team for vending without a permit in October and December of last year. Those are unrelated to this revocation. On May 15th, the port's manager of security and emergency preparedness requested that we revoke this permit via email. This request was accompanied by incident reports and logs, which demonstrated noncompliance with program rules and requirements. They specifically cited numerous violations, including multiple intellectual property violations, as stated on this slide. And just for some context, let's take a look at where the subject site was for vending. This site was somewhat temporary in nature. There's some construction that's going on that has displaced some vending sites. And so the port agreed to allow vending here on a temporary basis while construction was occurring in other proximate areas. So just for some visual aid there. So far as permit revocations for street vending, typically these come at the behest of our inspection team when we receive a request from our inspectors and they're asking us to revoke a permit for noncompliance. It's typically accompanied by a notice of violation or an incident report. And the Public Works permit team is also working with this permittee to get them set up vending at another location that is not on port property. This location, they'd still be subject to all program rules and requirements therein. I've received upwards of a half a dozen letters of support for the appellant. Just speaking to general character at large, and I'm available to respond to any specific questions or concerns that you might have, but that is our presentation today.
Okay, thank you. I might have some questions, but I'll save it for later. Okay, at this time, we'll have the applicant or permit holder speak. Mr. Grace.
Hello.
Mr.
Can you
Grace,
hear
you
me?
have 3 minutes.
Okay, so I'm not understanding what Mr. Slocum is presenting at this point. You know, I've been a vendor around the baseball park for a number of years, and they moved me from the front of the ballpark where I started 24 years ago working at, and they gave me the spot back there where he just indicated on the slide that he had by Pier 48. And I've been working back there. I started last year working back there, and then baseball season just started in April. I started back down there. So I'm kind of puzzled about what it is that he, what kind of charges that he's bringing against me in order to revoke my permit. That wasn't clear to me about the reason
Okay.
why they want. He just said that was certain amount of violations or something, but what is these violations? I need to know more about it so I could be able to respond. I can't respond right now to what he just said.
Was that any other comments that you have, Mr. Grace?
Yeah, I would like to keep my little spot at the pier. It seems as if they for some reason, I don't know if it's racially motivated or whatever it is, to push me out of there. I don't understand what the situation is, why they want to push me out of there. And Kyle Thomas, he's the one put me back there, and I talked to his boss, and it was all good for me to be back there. So I don't know what the reason is why they really want me out of there. That's people that's vending all up and down Embarcadero Street. Why am I the only one that have been constantly harassed and tormented? They've come to my spot
Mr. Grace,
numerous
you have
times.
30 seconds.
Yeah, they come to my spot numerous times and crowd around my stand where the people that purchase my merchandise are trying to figure out why is all these police and DPW people in the vests and all this stuff. And then, I think it's just not right. So I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will open it up to public comments for this agenda item. See, we have a Lateef Gray.
Mr. Lateef Gray, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead. Mr. Gray? You are allowed to speak. You have 3 minutes.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we
Yes,
can
we can.
hear. Yeah.
Good. So my name is Lateef Gray. I'm a civil rights attorney based in Oakland, California, with the law firm Pointer and Bueno Lawyers for the People. I was contacted by Mr. Grays some time ago regarding this incident because he was confused as to why he's being harassed and treated differently than others similarly situated. So I heard Mr. Slocum's presentation, and I'm still at a loss for words as to why Mr. Grays is being singled out. They claim that he's selling trademarked items, this, that, and the third, but whether something is trademarked is a legal standard. You can't just look at something and say, I'm violating a trademark. So I heard Mr. Grays' comments about he's still trying to figure out what the basis is for his permit being revoked. And another question I had that didn't make sense to me was, if the claim is that they're revoking his permit because he's violating a trademark, then why would they try to send him to another area? That makes no sense. If he's violating his trademark, in reality, he shouldn't have a permit. But it sounds like to me, and from what I've read and talked to Mr. Grays, they just want him out of this area, which for some reason is not fair to Mr. Grays. So Mr. Grays is confused as to what's going on and why he's being treated differently, and so am I. Because the presentation from Mr. Slocum didn't address what Mr. Grays is alleged to have done to violate this petition or whatever. So he's confused, and I'm confused as to why he's being treated differently than others who I've been out there. Others are selling merchandise that looks similar to Mr. Grays' merchandise, and they're not being harassed or their permit isn't being revoked. So it seems like it's some unfair stuff going on. And We want answers.
Thank you. Any other member of the public that would like to speak? Okay. I don't see any. Gregory, I had some questions. I don't know if you have
Yes.
on hand, but do we know what the permit conditions are, if there are any permit conditions?
Yeah, there are a number of permit rules and regulations. Give me one moment here and I can
Okay,
provide some supporting documents. And yeah, just if it wasn't abundantly clear in the first slide, there was a specific reference that I made to the port's request, and it did have to deal with intellectual property. So that was part of their driving reason. So give me one moment here. So much open here, pardon me. I've just included, I've just sent over the public works order, and this is published on our website with our orders that dictates basic rules and regulations for this. And then Article 5.9 is a legislative framework. There's also state code as it relates to intellectual property, which is under penal code. So for all of our permits, for the area near the port, one thing we did going into this baseball season was we tried to do a little bit more targeted outreach and emphasis as it related to penal code requirements and IP. And what that means was we added that condition to these permits so that it stood out uniquely and that there wasn't a puzzle to get back to what that issue was. We have also sought to engage in some targeted outreach. We have a list of vendors that are in the port because they are unique. And so ahead of events, we'll often send them outreach and mailings as to what restrictions may be for vending. A perfect example would be the NBA All-Star game. When that was going on during Chase, we would do some outreach in advance. Hey, there's additional restrictions here because there is a special event, there's ISCOP permits and so on. So while we are not intellectual property experts to any extent, we have sought to express to our permittees that their license to vend is you have to comply with additional rules and regulations thereafter to that effect.
okay. The penal code, and that relates to,
That relates to
what
intellectual
exactly?
property specifically
Okay,
for counterfeit
okay,
merchandise.
okay. Do we have a record of how many times DPW or the port or maybe even police has engaged with Mr. Grace?
I have at least 2 to 3 notices of violation that our team issued at the Powell Street turnaround that I referenced. Those are unrelated to this permit, but it demonstrates, it's a record that we have for the permittee. And then additionally, the port supplied us with an incident log, which I'm saving into the drive with the public hearing materials.
Mhm.
And they cited upwards of half a dozen instances over the span of 2 years in multiple locations in their documents. Unfortunately, I
I'm
don't have a
counting.
member of the port with me
Yeah.
today. Otherwise, I would also defer to them.
Sure. Actually, I'm looking at this, I guess list, and it's about 14, at least 14 instances for violation of 5.9.3, the Public Works Code, and that's to have a permit for vending.
Yeah, so that would likely be the Powell Street turnaround would have been an example. There are
Okay.
some sites that we do for public health and safety and pedestrian volume, we were challenged to issue permits at. For some of these more exclusive sites at the pier, we do offer a lottery. This permit was actually unique in that they were not subject to a lottery draw, and
Mhm.
we had given them some unique space to that effect.
Okay. So kind of going back to the permit conditions, they need to abide by Public Works Code, the state penal code. And the state penal code relates to intellectual property. So if there's a violation of, permit conditions, permit can be revoked for that matter. Am I correct?
Yeah, typically, and revocation is not typically an action that the permit team takes unilaterally. The only
Okay.
situation we've done that is perhaps if someone had an outstanding element of their permit that they didn't submit to us. That's not the case here. We typically do revocation at the behest of our field staff, meaning folks that are out in the field doing inspections and responsible for issuing violations and tickets. And we always ask that they substantiate this request, that they cite an incident or that they provide documentation. That's all.
Um, has the revocation, or actually, what, can you clarify what the revocation is for in this case?
Yes, I can. So the permit holders, they're allowed to request applications or locations throughout the city. The admissibility is based on clearances most typically, meaning path of travel. You're not in front of a red curb, you're not atop a fire hydrant or underneath the fire escape, and so on and so forth. And so this revocation would not preclude their ability to vend in other areas. And as I stated in my presentation, vending in any other area, they would still be subject to the terms and conditions of the permit. So if there's a tenant that dictates adherence to that penal code, that doesn't mean that's what's not allowable at the port is allowable on other public right of way. But what this revocation is specifically is for that port location. And the reason that we are specific about that is because the port specifically requested it, and they were responsible for inspection and enforcement over there, as well as our team. Did that answer your question?
Kind of. So we're revoking the permit because it's a request from the port.
Correct.
Any specific reason to that request to substantiate the revocation?
Yes, they cited this request comes after numerous violations, including multiple intellectual property violations at Oracle Park involving counterfeit Giants merchandise, as well as counterfeit Warriors merchandise at Chase Center. That was a summary, and then they included their incident reports to substantiate thereafter.
Okay,
And then any of our encounters in public right of way have been related to vending without a permit and not vending intellectual property violations, if that makes sense. So our inspection team has encountered them not on port property, and the encounter has been pursuant to a different basis, meaning you're set up to vend here and we don't have anyone permitted to vend here, as opposed to you're set up to vend here and you're selling something that runs awry of penal code.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, so this case, port's asking for it, based on violation of the permit conditions, but however, DPW generally does not revoke. For that reason, we revoke based on, site location, issues. Like path of travel or,
Yes.
things like that.
Yeah, and then I see one of our inspectors made a comment that they also have been cited for exceeding allowable space. Also, let me make clear, it's not that this is a condition that Public Works wouldn't revoke on. We don't have a precedent for it, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't. If we had a violation that we had to follow up on, or a complaint that we were compelled to investigate.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then when we revoked the permit or was moving to revoke it, did we explain the situation to Mr. Gray?
The basis of revocation, meaning the IP stuff, has been discussed, correct?
Okay. Was he provided any documentation from the port? Based at their surveillance logs, the
It's,
warning logs, things like that.
if he has received notices of violation and correction notices, which are written notices
Sure.
that accompany whatever the supporting rule or
Okay.
regulation is.
Okay.
And our field staff has had multiple direct conversations, I am being told.
Sure. Okay. And then do we know of any other vendors that are where we're having their permits revoked for vending in, let's say, an area where they're not supposed to?
Yes, we've had at least one other revocation at the port to date, and there have been a few revocations, and then alternately, if you have someone who's vending without a permit or who's vending copyright gear, they don't have a permit, it may be that they're told to go away and they do, and they don't return it.
Sure.
So it's not remediable to that extent.
Of course, of course. If there's no permit, there's no permit to revoke. And so for Mr. Gray's other location, we're working with him to try to get that location permitted right now.
Correct. It may be permitted as of this week. We sent an invoice for a renewal over there on the 5th.
Okay.
Team resent it yesterday. When you have notices of violation, most typically you have to pay those fees before you're given your permit. We've
Okay.
been seeking to accommodate by providing basically a payment plan for the sum of violation fines, so that they can vend to generate revenue to pay the fine
Mm-hmm.
simultaneous.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I had. Okay. I will now close the item and make my recommendations to the director. If there are any lingering comments, please send them over to Gregory Slocum. Next hearing item. Order 211767. May I have the department make its presentation?
Can everyone see my slides?
Yes.
All right. I will now present 24 MFF 0018, a request by Ecstasy LLC to operate a food truck in the public right of way. Today we are holding a public hearing due to objections that we received during the public noticing period. This is a request to operate a food truck at the intersection of Chestnut and Pierce. The affronting building is the Bank of America location, but where they're actually placing the trunk is perpendicular to that entrance. And I'll show you a site plan in a minute. The applicant has requested to operate from 8 a.m. to noon, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Site plan demonstrated requirements were met, predominantly sidewalk width. Applicant provided photographic poster proofing that was date stamped or time stamped, their mailing list. Public Works mailed this notice of intent. There was also electronic distribution. We've received an objection during the noticing period. We've probably received about 4 to 5 objections total that were coming in as recently as yesterday. This is a look at the site plan. As I referenced, that Bank of America entrance is on Chestnut, and they're seeking to operate on the perpendicular end. I'm going to show a Google Street View capture that may also assist. One requirement that DPH has is a restroom verification form. And essentially, when operators are requesting to operate in the public right of way, they have to demonstrate they've got access to a sink, bathroom, and all that. That frequently can be a challenge to sites because they find a site that meets spatial requirements or code requirements, but they can't find someone with a bathroom. The applicant has provided us with a verification form. And then again, here's an image of the subject site, which makes kind of a little bit more clear when I reference the perpendicular nature of the site to Chestnut. The department, yeah, like I mentioned, we received approximately half a dozen letters opposing the issuance of this permit. And they've cited competition, a lack of parking in the area, and generic neighborhood welfare impacts. I've included the Public Works hearing review basis. This is per our code. Whether the applicant's proposed locations within a 75-foot radius. There's a Super Duper Burger that's across the street, kind of perpendicular. And I actually had our inspection staff go out there and manually measure the distance to ensure that it was 75 feet. Just because sometimes it can be misleading if you're scaling. Additionally, whether there's 3 or more mobile food facilities permitted for overlapping times on either side of the block. That's not the case here. Other information deemed relevant to the determination, whether this would generate public safety concern. And then the sidewalk width. And then additionally, if there's any assertions made in the application. That is the conclusion of my slides, but I'm happy to respond to any questions you might have. And I believe that the applicant is also available.
Okay, thank you. May I have the applicant speak? Leon?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leon Liu. I am one of the applicants for Ecstasy LLC, permit application 24 MFF 00018. We would like to apply for this permit to bring our family business, it's run by me and my 2 sisters, to an area that I've worked in the past. I'm very familiar with the area. I've had employment with multiple companies on Chestnut Street. I understand that there have been concerns about parking. We don't intend on infringing upon anyone's right to parking. We only intend on being in business for 12 hours of the week. It's less than 7% of the week total. We have every intention of being respectful and dignified members of the community. We have every intention of cleaning up after ourselves, not drawing attention to ourselves or bringing any negative issues upon the community. Again, I'm from San Francisco. My whole family's been here for over 30 years. We understand what it means to be respectful of everyone's privacy and right of way, and freedom to move around their community. As for competition, I must admit, I don't agree with competition being a valid reason to oppose this permit. We are a capitalistic society. Competition exists in all aspects of life. It exists specifically in business. I mean, just because someone is tenured doesn't necessarily mean they have more of a right to operate a business than I do. I don't agree with that assertion. If anyone is threatened by the presence of our business, I don't have any advice for them beyond, you know, I personally don't feel threatened by the competition that I'm going to receive with my business in this community. And I don't think anyone should be worried about competition that they'll receive from us. I mean, it's an open marketplace. We're a free market.
Sir, you have 30 seconds.
But we have every intentions of being upstanding members of the community and to be respectful of everyone's space and time. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I will open it up to public comments at this time. Any members wanting to comment, you can raise your hand. Susan?
Susan, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, I object to the location of this food truck, not to its existence in general. This is on a very small residential street. Even UPS trucks, FedEx trucks have a hard time going through there. This is, of all the places in the marina, even if you just put it on the other side of the street, right next to a public parking, it would cause less damage, but this is literally directly in front of our house. I know there is no intention to be disrespectful or disruptive, but there are a lot of unintended consequences. Even the presence of an ATM, which is completely inert, causes people parking in driveways. It causes displaced people to stand there and either wait for handouts. There's a lot of really young, small children on this street alone. And I'm also confused by the fact that there have only been, you said only 2 dissents for this permit. I know amongst our community alone, I can count 30 people who submitted online to the permits and got verification back that they were received. So I'm confused that, I guess I'm concerned that things aren't being received. And then I guess my other question is, what are the other site locations were proposed and evaluated before choosing this one? Because of all the places, this is a very jammed street. I can't even turn into my driveway, right? So this is very likely the case if it's parked here. I will have a hard time getting even into my driveway. So I want to know what other site locations were considered. Even a wider street like Scott would have more room for cars and less traffic, or, you know, at Little Marina
You
Green.
have 30 seconds.
So if someone could explain to me why there were not other locations considered, I would appreciate it.
Thank you. Next speaker. Tira.
Officer Chan, I believe Sarini Vishnubhata was next.
Okay, sure.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Srini Vishnu. On that block down the street. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And we have very similar concerns that Susan just raised. As the second house down the street, there are cars blocking our driveway day in and day out. And a lot of the folks that block our driveway are folks that are trying to pick up food from the restaurants around our intersection. And if there is a mobile food truck, then the number of people that are going to do this is going to multiply significantly, particularly because this problem exists a lot more on the weekends when we have people visiting the marina from other parts of the city for brunch, for lunch, and other local activities. So I'm really concerned that our problem is only going to get worse. The other thing that I also want to emphasize is when we file complaints with SFMTA because of cars blocking our driveway, it doesn't really work because the cars move by the time the citation is issued or the car is towed. And so this is a no-win situation for us. And it's a very narrow block, which should really be a one-way street, given the how narrow the street is. And now on top of that, instead of making it a one-way street, if you put a food truck there and people are going to stand there trying to get their food or order the food, it is also pretty dangerous for not just residents, but anyone that's in that neighborhood, because the chances of an accident are pretty high. And as Susan mentioned, there's multiple families here with small kids that all we try to step out for brunch and lunch on the weekends. And our situation is going to be even more dangerous than adults coming here into our neighborhood on the weekends. Those are the two main things that I wanted to bring up. I also want to say that we are
Sir, you have 10 seconds.
very supportive of local businesses and small businesses, but this is not a good idea at all.
Okay, thank you. Next person, Tira.
Hi, my name is Tirut. I'm gonna have Leah speak on behalf of me.
Yep, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Hi, this is Leah, and Tiru and we own and operate Home Plate at 2150 Lombard Street. We object to this primarily because we don't have enough information. We were just alerted to this about a few days ago. At that time, we looked up the notice online, and the email address to object was also incorrect in multiple places. So we also had an obstacle and just not enough time to review this. We would have really appreciated just a notice in our mail, been dropped off at this to let us know that this was happening. So we feel pretty caught off guard. Which could be incorrect, was that there might be exceptions made to the permit process. And as a brick and mortar restaurant that follows our permitting processes, we can't comprehend why that would be allowed. But again, we could be incorrect. We just need more information. Also earlier in the hearing, it was noticed about a problem regarding the bathroom, and that the remedy just said that it was verified, but we didn't hear how it was verified. So we'd like further information on that as well. It would be very disrespectful if individuals attempted to use our business bathroom after going to this business, because we do offer that, of course. So yeah, we strongly really encourage actually that there'd be a delay so that we can get more information and object in a more thoughtful manner based on that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Officer Chan, we typically just allow speakers who've already spoken one time, but it's at your discretion. Yeah.
Susan, if you have other comments, please email them to the email in the chat, gregory.slocum@sfdpw.org. Actually, Leon, I have a question for you. Were there any other sites that you had looked at before kind of settling on this?
I understand the question and how it may come across as so this was actually just so happening the first site that we mapped out and looked at, and it was accepted. So we didn't do any further work.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
I wish to convey to the public that it's very difficult to place a truck in this area. There are a bunch of other restaurants we absolutely wish to respect, and we need to be certain distances away from other businesses and public property. And so there were a lot of challenges, and this was the first site that we found that matched all the
Met all those
requirements.
conditions.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Gregory, I had some follow-up questions. For the MFFs, do we allow the truck to occupy one parking space or two parking space typically?
It's a maximum of 2.
Maximum of 2.
And the occupancy will vary based on the size of the facility itself. Some are larger than others.
Okay. And then do we know what the sidewalk width is here?
It's depicted on that site plan, I believe. I believe it's 15. It's the minimum for a truck is 10. It's a wider clearance for a cart. And then the typical rule of thumb is that each sidewalk flag is approximately 3 feet. And as I look at the street view here, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 flags,
Okay.
which would lead me to believe it's wider than 15 feet and most certainly wider than 10.
Okay. So we'll have at least a 6-foot path of travel clearance for pedestrians and whatnot in this area.
Correct. And that's including a space for customers to queue. So
Sure.
that if they were to go around them, there would be space.
Okay. And that's typically 4 feet minimum?
Typically 6. 4 we say for point
6.
of entry, 6 for path of travel.
Oh, I meant for the queuing.
Oh, that is probably less than 4 feet, 2 to 3 feet approximately.
Okay. And then can you clarify the bathroom verification you had mentioned?
Yes. DPH is a form that is filled out and that asserts where the location is, and it has to be, that form has to be signed by the person providing the bathroom. So I could not arbitrarily assign a random public access bathroom. We frequently have this challenge because folks will want to cite perhaps a rec and park facility as their public bathroom, and they are not allowed to do that unless they have a letter like the one I'm mentioning from Rec and Park asserting as much. So they submitted a DPH form that validates that that validates that restroom's availability to them. And they're not required to do that by DPH until they pursue their DPH permits. But we request it so that we can attest to site viability, and we're not giving anybody the toy without the batteries, i.e. permitting them in public right of way where DPH will not allow them to serve due to lack of restroom.
Okay. And this bathroom is for the use of just the MFF or both the
Correct.
MFF
Yeah,
and its
it's because
customers?
it's a food operator needs to be able to wash their hands and have access to a running sink or facility. So it is not intended to be open for customers that are utilizing the food facility.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Any other general comments on this item from the public who has not spoken yet? Okay, if not, then I will close this item and make my recommendation to the director. That concludes all our items for today and concludes our hearing. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a good day.
Thank you, Officer Shan. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and conclude the recording.
Sure.